So what we're building is this authentic, verifiable storage platform. And why do you need that when you've got Google or AWS or Azure? We're not competing with those guys. We're extending the offering. And so they can't provide a verifiable, secure, decentralized storage layer. So what I expect to see happen is they'll also just add on, here's your verifiable storage layer for your super sensitive data that cannot be modified in any way, shape, or form. You have to prove its authenticity, etc. So there is no external centralized party or any external party that can ever look at or touch or even view your data.
Hey, Sohejl here. Thanks for tuning in. Real quick before we begin, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned something, please consider to follow or subscribe or share this episode. That helps us out a lot. It helps us to reach more people and to spread quality education across the space about crypto and Web3. Also, if you're part of a crypto project or represent one and you would like to come on the show or do sponsoring, please get in touch with us. And lastly, everything we talk about today is for educational purposes and no financial advice. Enjoy the show. All right. Ryan, great to have you on the TEACHMEDEFI podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. And good morning or good evening. I guess morning for me, evening for you.
Yeah, pretty much. And I didn't tell you yet, but I came prepared with an old Moonbeam logo.
Oh, that is true OG. I love that.
Yeah.
That is old school. You should probably frame that, not wear it.
I know. It's starting to fade. And I know there was a rebrand and everything, but for the nostalgic people.
Yeah, we'll have to get you one of the newer ones, as well as, I know we're going to talk today about DataHaven. We'll have to get you a DataHaven one too.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to have one. I mean, so, I told you we've had Derek, the founder of Moonbeam, on before, and the whole podcast has been very adjacent to Polkadot historically. We've covered the ecosystem extensively, and so I'm excited to see like a new project come out of Moonbeam here, or out of the Moonbeam Foundation. So yeah, maybe we start with that. I mean, how did DataHaven come about inside the foundation?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I'll preface it with this because it's very important for people to understand. We have this new project called DataHaven, which will be going live on testnet in, I don't know when this podcast will be released, but as of today, probably about 4 to 6 weeks. So I think middle of September. What's very important about this is it is an expansion into the Ethereum ecosystem, but it is not by any means an abandonment of Polkadot or of Moonbeam. So I wanted to get that out the way because I get asked that question all the time. They are two separate business entities, two foundations. The commonality is the great team behind it. You mentioned Derek, who, of course, runs Moonsong Labs, the incredible engineering team that built Moonbeam, building DataHaven as well. So we now have this new offering, and I guess we're going to deep dive into that in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, it's decentralized storage, right? Essentially at the core. And there's like restaking involved, but perhaps before we get into that part, sort of like, or maybe like anecdotally, I might be completely off here, but I always felt like decentralized storage was this vertical in crypto that was mentioned a lot always. And I never felt like it sort of took off. Like you kind of know about Filecoin and other ones, but it's totally anecdotal. So I'm just curious. Can you just give a bit of a primer, I guess, on the whole segment first? Like, what's decentralized storage? Why does it matter? In what ways is it better than maybe just using, I don't know, Google Drive or something? Maybe that's something that people are thinking of, or that's not even the exact use case. Yeah.
I love that you actually brought that up, because this is actually one of the messages that I've been sharing on X and socials and whatever else for the past, I don't know, 2-3 weeks or whatever else. I should share this. So I come from a background of storage. I kind of come full circle. I used to build data center storage infrastructure, everything from architecting tiered storage solutions and whatever else. And now I get full circle to do it again in Web3, which is super exciting, right? So you mentioned decentralized storage. I didn't feel that there was necessarily, maybe the best use case or fit for it. Look, the original decentralized storage providers did an incredible job of building out these platforms that you could actually use for assets within Web3. And I'm thinking more or less last cycle. So I think 2021, 22, where most of the storage or decentralized storage platforms were really being used for like NFTs or some of the assets behind that. They weren't really being used for general purpose storage. You mentioned it exactly right. That's why I was smiling. Why do you need that when you've got Google or AWS or Azure or whatever, insert centralized storage platform here? And so the way that we go about this is we're not competing with those guys. We're not competing with Google. We're not competing with Amazon. We're not competing with Microsoft Azure. What we are doing is we're extending the offering. And so you can use those kind of storage platforms for, your tier 0, tier 1, your high performance storage requirements, your fast tier storage requirements. You can store your files, anything you want up there. But the one thing that they can't do, and that's where this intersection with blockchain comes into play and with decentralization comes into play, is they can't provide a verifiable, secure, decentralized storage layer. And why I say that is when you build out, and I'll go into this when I describe DataHaven for you, when you talk about the requirements for verifiable storage or tamper-proofness or censorship resistance or authenticity or whatever else, you can't do that on traditional storage platforms. You can do that, however, on the blockchain. And that's where we're extending that offering. So what I expect to see happen, particularly with Web 2 or enterprise storage use cases, is just like they have this tier 0, almost in-memory storage, and then this tier 1, this high-performance storage, and then they go all the way through the stack to their archive storage. They'll also just add on, by the way, here's your verifiable storage layer for your super sensitive data, your data that cannot be modified in any way, shape, or form. You have to prove its authenticity, etc. So it's actually an extension. And I think what we're seeing now is the true requirement and the understanding of the requirement for that, which we didn't understand in the last cycle. It wasn't there. The infrastructure, the integrations and whatever didn't exist. But I've digressed ever so slightly because we had an anecdotal discussion, I guess, but I can dive deeper into that.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, okay, so sort of like for especially where you need even better performance guarantees or guarantees that this storage is done in a censorship proof manner securely. Is it also is it redundant storage?
It is.
That's what I think of when I think of decentralized as well, as in there's many instances on different machines. So if one goes down, there's another one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of blockchain is the replicated ledger, or the not even replicated, but actually the storing of the ledger across all of the nodes, which they come to consensus to agree that the ledger is actually correct and the transactions are actually correct. So you add that greater level of trust in the system, but you're trusting it because you can verify. Blind trust is very dangerous, but with blockchain, you can actually trust because you've verified what's happening in the background. I will say one thing. I'm not convinced to date that blockchain storage yet, and I'll caveat that yet in inverted commas or brackets or whatever you want to use, that the fundamental reason for it will be performance. That doesn't make sense to me. The fundamental reason to use decentralized storage is verification or verifiability, authenticity, tamper-proof, censorship resistance. It's not going to be performance. Realistically, you could probably run it way faster off your laptop than anything else.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Who do you foresee using this? So who is already using this? What are some of the use cases around this?
I guess before I dive into that, why don't I give a good background on what DataHaven even is? Because we've kind of jumped beyond, which I love. As I described to you before, just throw anything out, we'll have a good conversation. So let me share a bit about DataHaven, what we're building for, what we're solving for, and then I guess we can go into like some of the projects that we're talking to, some of the partners, and whatever else. So the way we've built DataHaven is basically in this manner. So DataHaven's an AI-first decentralized storage platform secured by EigenLayer. So you were talking before about the Polkadot ecosystem and Moonbeam being a roll-up on Polkadot. DataHaven is built substantially differently. We've built with AI agents, AI data in mind from the get-go. So everything we've built under the hood is taking into consideration AI data and AI storage use cases. I will again caveat that. DataHaven is a general purpose storage platform. Store whatever you want on there, any kind of files, images, documents. The only thing, and I say this all the time, the only thing I ever ask is please keep it legal. We can't control it, but please keep it legal. But we have focus on AI and AI use cases. There's so many reasons why. One is AI and blockchain just makes sense. The intersection between it completely makes sense. And I'll give a great example shortly. And it's not just a hot narrative, as in it's this week's flavor. We are just touching the beginnings of AI. This is a 5, 10, 15, 50-year trajectory for AI and the AI use cases. There's a little bit more to unpack in what I shared with you. So, DataHaven, AI-first storage platform secured by EigenLayer. You mentioned it earlier. We've chosen to build with EigenCloud and securing it through Ethereum restaking via EigenLayer. So instead of traditionally going out, sourcing your own validators and nodes and whatever else to create your consensus layer, we're actually extending the security of Ethereum mainnet through restaking. And that's what EigenLayer is so well known for. Very well connected with the team, love the team, love chatting to Shriram and Nader and the rest of the team. And we are actually building out their preferred storage platform. So within the actual AVS or Autonomous Verifiable Service, so these dApps that actually live within EigenLayer, we're aiming to become the default or de facto storage platform that extends capabilities of EigenLayer, but also provides a storage platform for all the other AVSs, which at last count, I think they have about 300 building right now.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, definitely check them out. I mean, I love the team, love what they're building. Huge believer in one Ethereum, which I guess the world has just proven that Ethereum is going to be the global ledger, and Wall Street's already chosen Ethereum. And two, the security. And as they just announced at their 10-year celebration, which I was fortunate enough to actually go to the 10-year celebration here in San Francisco, they announced that 10 years, multiple forks, tons of upgrades, zero downtime. It is very hard to name another technology that's ever done that. So, big bet, but we're excited because we now have access to all the builders, both in the EigenLayer ecosystem and the Ethereum ecosystem. And we will open up the storage platform via API. So we'll start seeing Web2 companies dabble into decentralized storage with DataHaven, exactly as I described. It's this verifiable layer. But let me get a little bit more into it, because you were asking about some of the use cases and whatever else. So what we're actually building here is, and when I say actually building, we have StageNet up and running, testnet coming, and mainnet will be back end of Q3, beginning of Q4. I'll put an asterisk behind that. So what we're building is this authentic, verifiable, tamper-proof, censorship-resistant storage platform. And why does anybody really care about that? I get asked this nonstop. My kids ask me this. Every time I have a conversation with people, they ask me this. Particularly the normies ask me this. Or non-crypto native people ask me this. So let me give you the example that I find resonates with every single person I've ever spoken with. So as a kid, we used to play this game called Broken Telephone. I think in different parts of the world, it's called Chinese Whispers or Telephone, game of telephone. And for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it usually happened at a birthday party, or you did it at like a school events or whatever else. And you'd sit in a circle, 5, 8, 10 different kids. And the first person would start off with a message, and they would whisper it into the ear of the second person, who would then whisper it into the ear of the third. The goal was to get it to the last person and make sure that the actual message that you sent came out exactly as it was intended. I can promise you, it has never come out exactly as intended. And so what would happen is a number of things. Either there was a loss in translation, or somebody was being silly and wanted to change the whole story so you could have a funny outcome, or there's some nefarious actor who wanted to change the message completely, so the last person had to do something silly, do a handstand, run around in circles, scream something out, whatever it is. Why I share that is this directly relates to the world of AI agents, AI data, and any kind of data transmission within blockchain. And so as we see the proliferation of these AI agents, and as we start trusting them more to actually take on critical tasks, sensitive tasks, and even introduce levels of autonomy. I mean, there's small levels of autonomy today. Most of these AI agents are human-driven. But as we introduce that, we have to ensure that the data that the original AI agent or AI platform is using and making decisions on is actually the data that they expected to use. So more importantly, or just as importantly, should I say, is a lot of these agents grab the data, make a decision based on it, and then hand those results off to another agent who then goes off and conducts another task. So if the initial data is corrupt, has been tampered with, has been nefariously modified, whatever may have happened to this actual data, it just has this butterfly effect of catastrophe where issues can take place. Think of your DeFi data, think of healthcare data, think of people making any type of life decisions based off getting this agent or this AI platform to leverage the data. If there has been something modified or it is incorrect, they could end up making pretty catastrophic decisions. And I talk about healthcare all the time because I think healthcare has one of the greatest use cases for AI and for blockchain. But if you're doing research, if you're doing testing, if any of that data is modified outside of your control and you then go make decisions, your agent goes and makes decisions, you're fraught with corruption, misinformation, and whatever else that comes with it. So where DataHaven comes in is a fewfold. One, we encrypt all the data. So, nobody's going to modify that. We can't even modify that. Two, we actually break up the data. So any data that comes into DataHaven gets sharded, broken up into tons of pieces, and it's fingerprinted or hashed. And when you go reference that piece of data, you'll reference the fingerprint. And immediately, if one of the pieces of those shards, think of it as the piece of the puzzle, have been modified, that fingerprint will alert you. You'll know straight away that it is incorrect. So it's kind of like you're building a puzzle and you think you're finished, and that one piece in the middle doesn't fit because it's the wrong piece. So you know straight away your puzzle isn't complete. You can't use that, right? That's where we're helping out here. We're ensuring that any form of data that lives on DataHaven, that has been stored there, has not been modified, has not been tampered with, has absolutely is not censored, it is encrypted, and you can trust the data that you're using, and we can verify that the data that you're using is what you expect to use. And so this is the big, goal, and the big problem that we're solving for is ensuring that, just like EigenCloud talks about this, the verifiable cloud. So think of building your apps on Google Cloud or AWS or Azure or whatever else, but in a verifiable manner. We now add this extra layer where we're extending that story. So it's not just verifiable at the cloud layer, it's verifiable now at the storage layer as well. So that's where DataHaven comes into the mix.
Okay, gotcha. So this is interesting. So if something is to be stored, I guess you would say on the DataHaven network, or how would you?
Yeah.
Okay. If something's to be stored there, it gets sharded, like you say, so split up in parts. Those parts are distributed over like several unrelated machines, I guess. Or then when does it get rebuilt? Is it when I want to access that file that it gets all pulled together and then you hash it?
Yeah, so you just retrieve it. The way the actual network is set up is we have almost like 3 different components. So we have the E3 staking through Eigenlayer, which runs the nodes to run the network itself. We then have what's called MSPs, master storage providers. Think of that as the front end, where when you store your data, it stores it on there. That's how you access it. Think of it like you'll be presented with a Dropbox. You'll be presented with an AI agent. You'll be presented with some kind of healthcare platform or DeFi, whatever it is. We'll have essentially over time, we'll have this marketplace of MSP offerings, and people will just choose what they want to access because of the data that they want to store. And then the next layer down is this BSP, or backup storage provider. Think of it as the archive layer. And that's where the data gets sharded and stored and broken up and whatever else. Here's the cool part, and I find this fascinating, is what we randomly do to ensure that these storage providers, actually do have the data that they said that they have. And not only that, have it in the manner that they have. We actually query randomly, we'll query a BSP. But the smart thing behind it is we don't say, show us the file, because anybody can trick that. We ask for a string within the actual file itself, which you can't fake. It would have to exist, and it's random. It's completely randomized. So it would have to exist, and that would guarantee that the storage that they're storing, or the component of storage that they are storing, is actually legit and is what you're asking for. We also will have rewards, staking rewards and whatever else in place, where these providers are actually providing a stake in order to secure the network, and also to be able to, be rewarded for good behavior, for quality of service, for performance and whatever else, and uptime.
Okay, this is interesting. So basically, you query like randomly these backups storage providers, and they have to give you a random string in like
of the data that they're storing. So it's just a way of querying them, and an easy way to catch out anybody that is faking what they're storing or trying to act nefariously. Look, we expect not to have to worry about that, but we have these mechanisms in place which are very important, and that's how we're able to ensure that the data that you're accessing is actually verifiable and is authentic.
Right. So if they would fail that, they could be slashed and like a piece of their stake taken away. So it's like economic punishment there.
Yeah. The MSPs, the master storage providers, they are getting real creative. I talk to projects every single day, 3 or 4 different projects every single day, and they're getting really creative as to what they will build as far as apps that people can use to access, store, or retrieve data. And we'll see the birth of the Dropbox for Web3. With the guaranteed verifiability behind it. As I shared before, we'll see these healthcare use cases. We'll see research use cases. There are multiple DeFi use cases, these AI agent use cases, everything and anything that requires verifiable storage and secure storage, particularly sensitive data. We'll see these types of offerings pop up, and there'll be quick and easy services that people can use.
Okay. So I guess these main storage providers, what service are they providing? Are they like centrally storing it so it's easily accessible? And then the backup service providers, are, like you said, are like the archive, like which you could default to if something goes wrong on the main provider? Or
so everything stored is done so in a decentralized manner. We guarantee it with a hash or with a proof as such. You can run like majority of systems. There's the portion that runs off chain, And then there's the guarantee that is settled and run on-chain. So you can guarantee that the actual access to the data or the resources or the platform or the app or whatever else is actually what you're after. To answer your question, though, the backup storage providers, just think of them as archive. They have this backup copy of the data. So if any of the systems actually should go down, if they're attacked or whatever it is, which we don't expect to happen, but it could happen, then you don't lose any kind of data. At the same time, and this is where I say we extend this value from your centralized Web 2 storage platforms. We just saw this, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where one of the, I won't name them out because that's unfair. One of the major Web 2 centralized storage providers actually went on a deletion spree, and they deleted millions of files without letting people know. So these files are gone. There is no recovery. You can't do that with DataHaven. You can't go and do that mass deletion. You're the only person that has access to your data. There is no underlying centralized operator. There's no underlying centralized organization or whatever else that can stop you from accessing your data, restrict your access, modify your data, move your data, delete your data, whatever it is. There's none of that. I mean, that's the true beauty of blockchain and blockchain technology. I didn't even share this with you, and I should have shared this when I first was talking about DataHaven, and that is, under the hood, we're actually an EVM L1. So we're a fully fledged L1 blockchain. We have an execution and smart contract layer. So you can actually build a dApp, run your smart contracts, your Solidity smart contracts, run everything you want, and then use the storage layer, which sits on top, to actually store your files and whatnot. We'll see how many projects actually do that. We have all these wonderful projects that build on Moonbeam, so they can actually build on Moonbeam, and then they'll be able to leverage DataHaven from the storage perspective, and vice versa. We'll have projects that use DataHaven to store data, and then they decide, oh wait, we can actually build either on DataHaven, we can build on Moonbeam. But I wanted to share that because just like we've built Moonbeam, which has the substrate level, it's an EVM L1 and whatever else, they almost the same under the hood, just one secured as a roll-up by Polkadot, the other one through E3 staking with EigenLayer, and has the storage layer on top. That's the service offering. Yeah. So we're definitely not positioning DataHaven as a general purpose L1 blockchain. We are building the decentralized storage layer. That's our focus.
Right. And in the context of AI, can you give it more color, like how this could be used? Like you mentioned healthcare. Is it, for example, to have like certainty around the training data sets that it hasn't been tampered with for LLM, or like what could it be?
Oh, there's a number of use cases. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about just because it's really near and dear to my heart. But one of the things I often talk about is research in healthcare, where they run these studies, and what happens is these studies are run across multiple samples, so multiple people that actually are tested on it, maybe with a placebo or with the actual drug or whatever else it may be. And let's say it's 100 people. What's very important behind that is you can't share any identifiable information about the people conducting the test, because that could break HIPAA compliance and healthcare regulations and whatever else. So we've already partnered with a number of these trusted execution environment providers, these T providers, who can then allow healthcare research to take place in this trusted environment, knowing that the only thing that is shared is an anonymized response or result that you can then make decisions on top of. That, joined with DataHaven, allows you to have, one, the trusted execution environment, two, the verifiable storage layer, so knowing that the results have not been modified, not by a human, not by an agent, not by a system, not by a centralized entity. And then you can start conducting additional research on top of that anonymized data, which may be done by a hospital, may be done by a pharmaceutical company, may be done by a pharmacy itself or some other healthcare provider. So we've actually partnered with not just the trusted execution environment providers. We've partnered also with GPU providers, so we can ensure the performance required behind that and the feasibility of the performance. The same with the likes of some AI agents or AI platforms that are focused on healthcare. Now, I said it before, healthcare is near and dear to me. Healthcare is probably the most viable use case for AI and for blockchain. It is also the hardest industry to ever crack into because of the strict sensitivity laws and compliance and regulation and whatever else. But we are working with a number of teams. And the reason why I share it in that manner is anybody that knows me well enough knows that I constantly talk about collaboration over competition. And the power of collaboration with the right partners allows us to actually provide beneficial and valuable services back to those that need it, whether it's healthcare, whether it's finance, whether it's, insert XYZ offering.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's say also for the example of Inference, let's say you, because it fits ODA AI, which we were talking about earlier. So if we can have guarantees around the inference being done in a privacy-preserving manner, so the computation of the AI, for example, if it's done in a trusted execution environment, could you couple this then with your decentralized storage to have like also the stored data encrypted and privacy preserving? Is this something as well?
Absolutely. So it's actually a fundamental use case for us. There's actually two ways that we look at that. So exactly as you described it, storing the inferences, making sure that they're not modified. They're, you can build on top of them or add as such. There's also the other piece, which is extending the in-contextual memory. So to date, like if you use ChatGPT or you use Grok, from XAI, or you use Perplexity or whatever else, there is actually a limit as to how long it's going to maintain the reference to your original query. I think they're getting way better at it in that they're providing additional resources and storage and whatever else behind it. But where we come into play is you can essentially extend that for perpetuity. There is no reason to truncate. There's no reason to say, okay, at the 3-week mark or at the 4-week mark, let's call it monthly, we're going to now delete your original query. And so if you go back and query that prompt, it now has to start rebuilding. And so you've lost out on everything that you built. Whereas with DataHaven, there's no restrictions. You just keep building, and there's no limit behind that. The only limit is going to be how much storage we can provide through our MSPs and BSPs. So that's become very important.
Maybe on that, why is there a limit with the centralized offering?
It's just how they built it.
Right. Just you'd have to pay more for storage, basically.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. So, I mean, you've probably heard how it was Sam Altman who kept saying, stop being polite to your AI agent. Don't say please or thank you or anything like that, because that just uses up tons of resources, which blows out their CPU and GPU utilization. It's the same on the storage side. Oh, there was an article that came out, I think it was on Reddit or maybe in a blog, where Sam Altman was, that's what it was. Sam Altman was actually talking about how any data that you actually load into ChatGPT can be used against you in the court of law. So just imagine that. I have this term that I use internally. One of my colleagues and I came up with this, but it's people tend to overshare and undercare. And that is, they overshare everything in ChatGPT. I mean, people are uploading bank statements and health documents and using their real names and social security numbers and whatever else, building out financial plans and whatnot. What people forget is that this is actually a centralized open system, and others can, one, when they get a query, they do get results based on other people's queries. Two, if you're not careful with what you're sharing, that can be used against you. I mean, somebody may be looking for tax loopholes, for example. Whereas if you do it in these private manners. So what we're looking to actually provide here, we're working with another org. I don't want to mention any of these organizations just yet because we haven't released this to the public. But we're working with an organization that will allow you to actually run these secure instances where you can run all of your kind of queries, just like you would with healthcare research data or your financial data or whatever, insert use case here. You're the only person that can ever touch it, modify it, or access it. So there is no external centralized party or any external party that can ever look at or touch or even view your data.
Is it because your key pair can only decrypt the encrypted files? Is that how it's done?
Yeah, interesting question. So the encryption and decryption is actually run by the agent itself, by the host. So for me, if I'm going to access this and run and use my data and whatever else, I'm the one that's going to be encrypting and decrypting the data from an agent that runs on my platform. And then, yes, you're talking about key pairs and hashes and whatever else. It's restricted to the owner. Nobody else can do it unless you hand over access to somebody else.
Makes sense. I think you guys published like an AI trust playbook as well.
We did. Loved curating that. It was a wonderful joint effort internally where we came up with, I think it was 6 different use cases. We'll continue adding to it. Highly recommend people checking it out. I can share the links with you if you want to share it with anybody listening in here. Because what we did was we looked at what the fundamental use cases for AI and storage were, and where DataHaven plays a critical role. So you brought up an incredible example with inferences. I shared the one about this memory and whatever else. Some of the other use cases are, what if you're building an SDK? So you're building out some piece of software. You're now sharing that with an agent. The agent needs to query it, or you need to query it. What if it's a fake version of the SDK? Or what if it's a modified version? So where we come into play is we're verifying and validating that the version that you're after and the file and the data that you're after actually is what you were after in the first place.
What's the most exciting, because you're VP of business development at Moonbeam and
DataHaven.
And DataHaven.
I wear 2 hats. It's fun.
Yeah, very good. So what is the kind of growth trajectory or growth vehicle angle that you're most excited about, where you think like this will be the most meaningful way where we'll grow? Because, like, for example, you mentioned EigenLayer with all the AVSs there. That sounds pretty significant to me. So is it sort of in that ecosystem where you go, okay, this is also where we're focusing maybe most of our energy? Or is it completely outside of Web3? You mentioned like healthcare and things like that. Like, what way are you kind of heading?
The answer to your question is yes. We're actually exploring all of these avenues. We're actually working with one of the leading GPU providers. We'll announce that very soon, around a joint offering. So people that rent GPUs also get a native offering or opportunity to leverage DataHaven as a storage platform. So you're building whatever it is in blockchain or AI or gaming or whatever it's going to be, where you require these GPUs. And by the way, you need some storage, verifiable storage. Here's DataHaven. We're coming up with these jointly with our partners. We're coming up with these healthcare use cases like you and I spoke about, and even more. I think what's very important, though, to share, because I'm a huge advocate for this. I'm quite vocal about this actually on X, and that is, we are building with our revenue generation in mind. This is not a backyard hobby. This is not just a fun project that we're going to build and see what happens. We've taken a real strong strategic approach. We've done mass market analysis. We've spoken to hundreds of different people and projects and partners and whatever else to make sure that what we're building is not only usable, but it's also valuable. And if there's value in it, people will pay to use it. Like you pay to use Google Storage, Google Cloud, like you pay to use Dropbox, like you pay to use any kind of other storage platform. We'll have a very well priced platform, parity in cost. But you will get these added advantages like the verifiability and authenticity and whatnot that comes with it. So it is very important to us. And most of the partners that we have chosen to work with have the same mindset. And why I raise that is that opens up the door for us to real Web 2 and enterprise use cases, because they then see it as a real business. And that's very important to us. And the majority of the core team come from a strong Web 2 and enterprise business background. So we have strong Web 3 understanding and experience, and strong Web 2 understanding and experience. And that's really important for us.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I hold the Moonbeam technical team also in high regard, so that's always also a data point. So what does the economic model look like, perhaps? Because I assume you pay also for these decentralized storage providers to do their job. If you're abstracting away, because you mentioned how you have a lot of Web 2 people as well and want to make it easy. If you are abstracting away pure crypto payments, or like sort of offering to users also to just pay in fiat, if you're doing that, how are you doing that? Is it like you as a centralized company might accept the fiat and then you convert it like automatically in the background to whatever cryptocurrency that you pay the storage providers with, or like what's the economic model?
So I can't divulge too much behind that because there's a lot in the works and mechanics behind it, but we will have multiple ways that you'll be able to pay. Fiat, USDC, or some stable coin, and then our token, the Have token, which will be doing TGE probably beginning of Q4. We will provide, because I love that question, and I think it is critical for anybody building a revenue-generating business that wants to talk to enterprise and Web 2 customers. They don't need to know about crypto payments or how they do it. They should be able to either swipe a credit card, put in their ACH details. In the back end, there can be the conversion real-time into either a stable coin or into the Have token, which is then paid for the storage. So the Have token itself actually has multiple use cases. There's the restaking for security. There's the payment of the storage. There's governance behind it as well. So it'll be used for voting and voting rights in the platform. And we didn't even talk about that, which is, and I can't step away without sharing this because I'm super proud. We've taken a strong approach to doing a true fair token launch. We're not doing what's been done before. We've looked at, there'll be components of what's been done before, but we've looked at a large number of these TGEs. Some have been successful, many have been unsuccessful or have off-sided communities, or they've churned. People will do a bunch of tasks, they'll farm, they'll get their tokens, launch, first green candle up, gone, they don't. We are doing a true fair launch. There's no VCs. There's no external investors. There's nobody that holds tokens beforehand, meaning that everybody has an equal chance on TGE to acquire the Have token, knowing that there is nobody that can dump on them. And that's very important to us. We're allocating 50% of the supply to our community. We have a strong belief in our community. They are critical to our success. I actually love our community. They're both incredibly fun and funny and crazy at the same time. Crazy in a great manner. We grew our community like on Discord to, I think we're probably touching 90,000 people now already. And I don't have a lot of time, but when I pop in there to say hi, it's always so much energy, so much enthusiasm, so much support for DataHaven and what we're building. And so we want to reward our community and make sure that they have a vested interest and, they have the opportunity to play a critical part in the success of DataHaven. And just to add to that, so even with our split, and people can go to our website and go to the tokenomics tab just to dive deeper, but even with the 50% supply allocated to the community, only 8% of that will be unlocked on day one. We're going to unlock it over a 36-month period. So No, there's not going to be this mass release of tokens. There's not going to be this crazy pump and dump. We're not interested in that. We're building, I'll say it 1,000 times, we're building a real business, we're building a revenue generating business, and we're building for success. We're not a fly-by-night pump and dump.
Yeah, this is really cool. And I remember Moonbeam was quite generous in their token launch as well to the community. But it does sound challenging from a bootstrapping perspective, because if you don't raise from VCs, there's no cash inflow at the beginning, which you can use to pay the team for growth and stuff like that.
Yeah. So where we're fortunate is we have people from the same team that run, build, and grow Moonbeam that are taking care of DataHaven. So we're able to basically wear multiple hats and split time depending on priorities and whatever else. So we are actually running 2 chains, and I laugh every time I say that because of the rapper 2 Chainz. But we are actually running 2 different blockchains, and I arguably have the most incredible job on this planet, because usually anybody on the business side does not get involved with building a chain from ground up. You usually get brought in once the tech is almost ready, or you're getting close to now pushing out to find partners and whatever else. Whereas here, myself and my team have had the opportunity to actually be a part of building and steering the go-to-market and our growth strategies and whatever else.
Right. Perhaps this is a good wrap-up question then. What does that mean for Moonbeam then, perhaps DataHaven, because of that close intertwinedness, relatedness?
It is nothing short of positive for Moonbeam. So we've actually, funny, and I highly recommend people check this out, we've actually had tremendous growth in Moonbeam. This is not taken away from it. In the very beginning, people asked, "Oh, you're you're abandoning Moonbeam, you're moving on, you're abandoning Polkadot, you're just focused on Ethereum." No, Moonbeam is actually critical. We're going to have a number of projects that build on Moonbeam that will use DataHaven. We'll have a number of projects that build on DataHaven that use Moonbeam. In fact, go check out what Moonbeam is doing at the moment, because we have a massive announcement coming out. I think it's today or tomorrow. Well, I guess it'll be too late when this is released. But gaming has gone bananas on Moonbeam, and it's because we invested in a company that built out this tournament infrastructure. And so instead of taking away from Moonbeam, Moonbeam is actually growing and expanding, and we're super proud of the fact that we can grow one chain and start building the other chain that we're growing already. So it's all positive.
It's great to hear. So I can keep my T-shirt even though it's an old logo.
You can keep your T-shirt. I will have to somehow find you one of the newer versions, and I will definitely get you a swag pack with some of the DataHaven merch.
Sweet.
Once we release it.
I'll hold you to it. I mean, Ryan, thank you so much. That was really interesting. I've not talked about decentralized storage yet, I think, on the show. So this was great.
Glad to be the first. Thank you. This was, like I always say whenever I interview people, it was painless. It was fun. It was engaging. And if anything, I'm glad we connected. I definitely want to talk further beyond this with a lot of the things that you're doing in the background. And thank you so much for having me on.